The baby is fine, but what I'm seeing on the screen. My name is Michael, 37 years old, a Marine. I just got back from a peacekeeping tour in Haiti 2 weeks ago, after an 8-month deployment. I was sitting in that cold hospital room in Dallas, watching my wife Jessica get an ultrasound, when Dr. Evans's hand started shaking like he'd seen a ghost. "Sir, you need to leave immediately and call a lawyer." The words hit me like shrapnel. Jessica was lying there on that examination table, the ultrasound gel still wet on her belly, looking between the doctor and me with confusion written all over her face. The same expression she'd been wearing a lot lately, like she was always trying to figure out what I was thinking. "Is something wrong with the baby?" I asked. My voice stayed level. "Military training does that to you. Keep calm when everything is falling apart around you." The smell of alcohol and disinfectant filled my lungs with every breath. I could feel the cold air conditioning on the back of my neck, a sharp contrast to the heat starting to rise in my chest. Dr. Evans wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. He'd been practicing medicine for 20 years, according to the certificates on the wall. This wasn't his first ultrasound, but his face had gone pale, and he kept looking at the screen like it was displaying classified information. I could see a vein pulsing on the side of his neck. "The baby is fine," he repeated. Then he stepped closer to me and lowered his voice. "But what I'm seeing on this screen shows a 32-week development." The room went silent, except for the hum of the medical equipment and the muffled sound of traffic on the interstate outside. Jessica was still smiling, still acting like everything was normal. She'd been doing a lot of that since I got home, acting. 32 weeks, I repeated. The words came out of my mouth slowly, each syllable weighing like lead. Yes, sir, I did the math in my head. 32 weeks ago, I was loading gear onto a transport plane headed for Haiti. 32 weeks ago, I was saying goodbye to my wife at DFW Airport. 32 weeks ago, I was sleeping in a military barracks on the other side of the world, waking up to the humid Caribbean heat and the sound of helicopters. Dr. Evans looked at me like he was expecting something, a reaction, an explosion. Maybe he expected me to start yelling or throwing things, but I just sat there processing the information like mission intel. I could feel my heart beating slow and steady in my chest, just like it did on a field operation. "Michael," Jessica's voice sounded small, almost childish. "What's going on? Why is everyone so serious?" I looked at my wife, really looked at her. The way she'd been checking her phone constantly since I got back. The way she talked about the pregnancy, like it was some kind of surprise gift. The way she insisted on scheduling this appointment for when I could come with her. She wanted me here for this moment. The realization settled in my chest like a cold weight. I met Jessica 6 years ago at a barbecue on the south side. She was a dental hygienist, had this laugh that could fill a whole room. I was stationed at Fort Hood then before my transfer. She said she'd always wanted to marry a military man. Said she respected the sacrifice, the service. We got married 3 years later, small ceremony at her parents' church in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, just family and close friends, with that blistering July heat that made your suit stick to your back. I'd been deployed twice during our marriage, both short tours. She handled it well, or so I thought. Sent care packages, wrote messages, kept the house running. The kind of wife other Marines envied. When this Haiti deployment came up 8 months ago, she cried at the airport. Real tears, not the fake ones I'd learned to recognize over the years. She held me tight and promised she'd be waiting when I got back. "I'll keep busy," she said, touching my face with those soft hands that smelled like lavender lotion. "Maybe take some classes, work on the garden." I remember thinking how lucky I was. I could smell her perfume, the same one she'd worn since we met, mixed with the smell of airport coffee. The first month overseas, we video chatted every couple of days. She seemed tired, stressed from being alone. Normal stuff. I could see our living room behind her. Same decor, same pictures on the wall. The second month, the calls got shorter. She was taking night classes at the community college. Pottery of all things. Said it relaxed her. I thought it was strange, but I let it go. She needed something to fill the empty nights after all. By the third month, I was mostly getting text messages. Short, busy day at work. "Miss you. Everything's fine here." I figured she was adjusting. Military wives learn to build their own lives. It's survival. That's what they told us in the family readiness trainings. When I got home 2 weeks ago, she seemed different, jumpy. She'd gained some weight, which she blamed on stress eating, started wearing looser clothes, those flowy tops that hid her body, said she hadn't been feeling well. Thought maybe she'd caught a stomach bug. The house smelled different too, I realize now. A faint men's cologne in the air that wasn't mine. Then last week she told me she was pregnant. I found out a few days after you left, she said. Crying happy tears that I now saw were calculated. I wanted to surprise you when you got back. I'm about 10 weeks along. 10 weeks? I had been home for a week and a half at that point. She'd already booked the ultrasound appointment. Said she wanted me there for our first look at the baby. Our baby. I felt proud, excited, like maybe this deployment had been worth it. Coming home to this news. I even bought a teddy bear on the way home that day. Feeling that warmth in your chest you get when you think about being a father. Now I was sitting in this doctor's office watching my wife lie on an exam table, finding out that the math didn't add up. The timeline was all wrong. Everything was wrong. Dr. Evans was still standing there waiting for me to react. Jessica was still asking what was going on, her voice getting higher with each question. I could feel something cracking inside my chest, but my face remained calm. Training. It always comes back to the training. In the next room, I could hear the muffled cry of a newborn. The sound cut through my stomach. 32 weeks, I said again, more to myself than anyone else. Dr. Evans nodded. His hands had stopped shaking, but he kept glancing at the door like he wanted to escape. A nurse walked by in the hallway, and I could hear the sound of her shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. Sir, I have to ask, were you present at the time of conception? Jessica's face went white. Not confused, white. The white of someone who's been caught. The white of someone who knows the lie is over. I could see her pulse hammering in her neck, a small blue vein throbbing rapidly. Michael, I don't understand what's happening, she said. But her voice had changed. Less confusion, more panic. She pulled her shirt down, covering her belly as if to hide the evidence. What does 32 weeks mean? I stood up from the chair slowly, military posture, back straight, shoulders squared. The leather of the chair groaned as I rose. It means I was in Haiti when this baby was conceived. The silence in that room was absolute. Even the medical equipment seemed to go quiet. I could hear my own breathing, controlled and measured. I could feel the weight of the watch on my wrist, each second ticking by like an eternity. That's not possible, Jessica whispered. But she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the ceiling tiles like she was counting everyone, and her hands were shaking now. Fingers laced together so tightly, her knuckles went white. I told you I'm 10 weeks pregnant, the baby. I got pregnant right before you left. Dr. Evans cleared his throat, the harsh sound breaking the silence. Ma'am, the fetal measurements are very clear. This is a 32-week pregnancy. The date of conception would have been approximately 8 months ago. I watched my wife's face as the reality hit her. The careful story she had built was crumbling in real time. She'd made a mistake somewhere. Maybe she'd lost track of the timeline. Maybe she was so focused on selling the lie that she forgot to check the math. There has to be a mistake, she said, sitting up on the exam table. The paper crinkled beneath her, making a sound that seemed to scream in the quiet room. The ultrasound machine or something. The gel on her belly was starting to dry, leaving streaks on her skin. But I was already thinking about other things. The neighbor, Kevin Johnson, who had helped out with yard work while I was gone. Jessica had mentioned him in a few phone calls, said he fixed the fence, helped move some furniture. Good neighbor, she'd called him. Now I remembered the tone of her voice when she talked about him, a little brighter, a little lighter. I was thinking about the phone calls that got shorter and shorter, the pottery night classes that seemed to end awfully late. The way she was so insistent on making this ultrasound appointment. She wanted me here. She wanted me to see this ultrasound, to believe I was the father, to commit to raising another man's child for 18 years. The cold weight in my chest was spreading, up my throat, down my arms. It wasn't anger yet, just clarity, the kind of clarity you get when you're looking through a scope and everything suddenly comes into focus. Every detail becoming crystal clear, every lie revealing itself. Dr. Evans, I said, my voice coming out steady despite the storm inside me. I need copies of everything. The measurements, the images, the report. He nodded, quickly looking relieved to have something practical to do. Michael, what are you doing? Jessica's voice was rising, cracking at the edges. You're scaring me. Her hands gripped the side of the table, and I could see her nails painted red digging into the paper. I looked at my wife. 6 years of marriage, 3 years of believing I knew who she was, 8 months of me sleeping alone in a sweltering barracks while she was sleeping with someone else. 8 months of me waking up to the sound of training rounds while she woke up in our bed with another man. "I'm getting the facts," I said, just like any good mission requires. I could see it in her eyes that she knew it was over. The lie had an expiration date, and it had just run out in that cold hospital room, with the smell of ultrasound gel in the air and the truth displayed on a black and white screen. The ride home was silent. Jessica kept talking, filling the quiet with explanations that made less and less sense with every word. The Dallas traffic was heavy for a Tuesday afternoon, same as always. Horns honking, motorcycles weaving between cars, the smell of exhaust seeping through the air conditioning vents. "Maybe they mixed my file up with someone else's," she said, her hands twisting in her lap, fingers lacing and unlacing in a nervous pattern. "Medical mistakes happen all the time. Remember when they sent you that other guy's blood test results?" I kept my eyes on the road. A delivery bike almost clipped the side mirror. Normal people living normal lives, going about their business while my world was collapsing in the passenger seat. I could feel the steering wheel under my hands, the leather warm from the afternoon sun. "Or maybe the ultrasound machine was calibrated wrong," she went on, her voice growing more desperate. "Those things are just computers, right? Computers make mistakes. I've seen it on TV, cases of wrong diagnoses." We pulled onto our street. I could see the oak tree in the front yard, the one we planted together our first year of marriage. The leaves rustled in the hot afternoon wind. We pulled into the driveway. The house looked the same as when we left an hour ago. Same yellow siding, same iron gate, same basketball hoop I installed 3 summers ago when I thought we'd have kids to play there. But everything felt different now. Even the familiar smell of the street, a mix of hot asphalt and food cooking in the neighbors' houses, seemed foreign. I parked the truck and just sat there for a moment, the engine ticking as it cooled. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, lighting up dust particles floating in the air. I could see our house reflected in the rearview mirror, distorted and strange. "Michael, please say something," Jessica said, her hand touching my arm. "You're making me nervous." I looked at her. Really looked. The weight gain made sense now, the loose clothes. The way she'd been avoiding certain positions when we were intimate since I got back. I'd noticed, but I wrote it off as stress as time apart. "What a fool. When are you due?" I asked, my voice coming out calmer than I felt. "What? If you're 32 weeks pregnant, when is the baby due?" Her mouth opened and closed. She was calculating, trying to figure out which answer would work best. I could see her eyes shifting, thinking, lying. The doctor didn't say exactly. She finally managed. 8 weeks, I said. 32 plus 8 is 40. You're due in 8 weeks. We got out of the truck. I unlocked the front door and the house smelled like the vanilla candles Jessica always burned. It smelled like home, but it wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene. It was the place where my life had been stolen from me, one lie at a time. In the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady, but I could feel an internal tremor like an earthquake happening just below the surface. I looked out the back window. Kevin Johnson was in his yard next door working on his motorcycle. Mid-40s, divorced a couple years back, worked in construction, had helped Jessica move the patio furniture while I was deployed. Now that I knew, I could see it. The way our fence had been repaired with extra care. The new flowers in the garden that Jessica said she planted herself. The new grill she said she got on sale. Every little lie building on the last, creating a mountain of betrayal. "Want me to make lunch?" Jessica asked. She was trying to act normal, but her voice was too high, too forced, like a guitar string stretched too tight. "How long have you been sleeping with Kevin?" The glass she was reaching for slipped from her hand and shattered on the kitchen tile. The sound was like a gunshot, loud and final. Shards scattered around her feet, some so small they looked like ice crystals on the floor. "What did you just say?" she whispered. I turned to face her. "You heard me." "Michael, that's insane." "Kevin is our neighbor. He helped me with a few things around the house while you were gone. But that's it. I can't believe you would accuse me of something like that." But she was backing away from me as she spoke. Not the body language of an innocent woman. The body language of someone who's been caught. Her eyes were searching for an escape, an excuse, anything. "The baby is yours," she said, her voice getting stronger, more desperate. "I don't know what that doctor thinks he saw, but the baby is yours. We'll get a second opinion. We'll go to a different doctor. First thing tomorrow, we'll go to another hospital. We'll run new tests." I knelt and started picking up the shards of glass. The pieces were sharp, clear like the truth. A piece cut my finger, and a drop of blood smeared on the floor. I didn't feel the pain. "Jessica," I said, not looking up from the floor. I was trained to gather intelligence, to read situations, to recognize deception. I spent 8 months reading people who wanted to kill me. "You think I can't read my own wife? This isn't Haiti," she shot back, her voice cracking. "This is our marriage. This is our life. This is our home, Michael. You can't just end it all like this." I stood up and dropped the glass pieces in the trash. They made a hollow sound as they hit the bottom of the empty can. "You're right. In Haiti, when someone lies to you, they're usually trying to get you killed. Here, they're just trying to destroy your life. They both hurt, but at least over there I expected the betrayal." She was crying now. Not the pretty tears from the airport 8 months ago. Ugly, desperate tears that smeared her makeup and made her nose run. "I love you," she said, her voice choked. "Whatever you think happened, I love you, Michael. Please believe me." I walked past her toward our bedroom. The hallway felt longer than usual, each step echoing on the tile floor. The pictures on the walls, our wedding, vacations, birthdays, now looked like cruel jokes. "I'm packing some things. Where are you going?" "To find a lawyer." "Michael, please. We can fix this. The baby needs a father." I stopped at the doorway. I could see our bed through the open door. The same blue sheets, the same comforter she said she loved. How many times had he slept there? How many times had she brought him into our bed? "The baby has a father," I said without turning around. "It's just not me." I spent the night in a motel near the base. Cheap place, but clean. The kind of room I'd stayed in 100 times during training exercises. Familiar territory. The mattress was hard. The air conditioner rattled. And I could hear the traffic on the highway outside. But it was mine. There were no lies in the walls. No false memories in the air. At 7 in the morning, I called my lawyer, Scott Miller. We'd used him for the house closing and our wills. Good man, ex-army. He understood military life, understood loyalty, understood betrayal. "Michael, what can I do for you?" His voice was sharp, alert even this early. I explained the situation. The ultrasound, the timeline, the math that didn't lie. I could hear him taking notes on the other end of the line, his pen scratching against paper. "Jesus," he said when I was done. "I'm sorry, brother. That's heavy. Tell me what I need to do." "First, we get a DNA test, establish paternity, or in this case, non-paternity. Second, we start documenting everything. The ultrasound report, any communications you have with your wife about the pregnancy. Third, we get ready to file for divorce. What about the house? Texas is a community property state, but infidelity can impact the division of assets, especially if she was using marital resources to conduct the affair. We're going to need proof. Photograph everything, save everything, every text, every receipt, every piece of evidence." After the call, I drove back to the house. Jessica's car wasn't in the driveway. At work, probably, pretending everything was normal. Playing the part of the faithful wife, waiting for her military husband at home. I had my key, of course, but it was still my house. For now, at least. Inside, I went to our home office. Jessica kept papers in the desk drawer. Bills, bank statements, that sort of thing. I never had a reason to look through them before. Trust. What a stupid word it seemed now. What I found made everything worse. So much worse. Credit card statements showing charges at restaurants we'd never been to. Hotels in the hill country. Receipts for men's clothing size large. I wore a medium. Phone bills with hundreds of calls to Kevin Johnson's number, starting about a month after my deployment. But the worst was a receipt from a women's clinic downtown, dated 7 months ago. Prenatal vitamins and a pregnancy test. She knew she was pregnant almost from the beginning. She had 7 months to figure out how to handle the situation, and her plan was to convince me the baby was mine. 7 months planning the lie. 7 months building the charade. 7 months writing me messages saying she missed me while carrying another man's child. I photographed everything with my phone, evidence, intel, Each picture was a stab wound, but I kept clicking. I was putting the papers back when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Jessica was home early. I was in the kitchen when she walked through the front door. She looked surprised to see me. "I thought you were staying somewhere else," she said, dropping her purse on the counter, the purse I'd given her for our second anniversary. Everything was tainted now. "I came back to get some things," I said. She watched me carefully. Those brown eyes I used to love now studying me like I was a threat. "Have you been going through my things? Should I have been?" The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. "Michael, whatever you think you found, there's an explanation." I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the pictures, the restaurant receipt from 5 months ago. "Dinner for 2, paid with our joint credit card." "Explain this." She looked at the screen and her face went pale again, that sickly shade of white that was becoming familiar. "I took my sister out for her birthday." "Your sister lives out of state. She was visiting." I swiped to the next picture. "The hotel receipt from the hill country. Explain this one." Silence. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking off the seconds, tick, 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 each second an eternity. I swiped again. "The receipt for men's clothes." "And this one." She sat down heavily in one of the kitchen chairs like her legs had given out. The fight was gone from her. All the pretense, all the acting crumbling away. "How long?" I asked, my voice quieter than I felt. "Michael, how long have you been sleeping with Kevin?" She put her face in her hands. "Since about a month after you left." Her voice was just a whisper, muffled by her palms. "It wasn't planned. It just happened. He was here helping with the fence and it just happened. 7 months. Almost my entire deployment. 7 months of lies. 7 months while I was the baby. I cut off my own thought. I didn't want to go there. Not yet." "I don't know," she said, looking up at me with red, swollen eyes. "It could be yours. The timing, Jessica." I kept my voice level. "You know it's not mine." The doctor confirmed it. 32 weeks. I was on the other side of the world 32 weeks ago. She looked at me, mascara running down her cheeks. "What are you going to do?" I was already walking toward the door. "I'm going to do what I should have done yesterday. Get a lawyer, get the proof, get my life back." Scott Miller's office was in a modern high-rise downtown, all glass and steel, the kind of place that handles serious business. A 20-minute drive from the house. 20 minutes that felt like seconds and hours at the same time. "I have the proof," I said, sliding the printed photos across his desk. He looked through them methodically. Ex-military guys understand documentation. They understand evidence. "This is comprehensive," he said, arranging the photos into neat piles. "Credit cards, phone records, medical receipts. How are you holding up?" "Functional," I said. The word felt inadequate, but it was all I had. Functional was sometimes the best you could hope for. Functional meant I hadn't broken completely yet. He nodded. He understood what that meant. "Here's what we do," he said, pulling out a legal pad. "First, we file for divorce on grounds of adultery. Texas allows for fault-based divorce, and you have clear proof. Second, we get a court-ordered DNA test to establish non-paternity. Third, we petition for the return of any marital funds used to support the affair. What about the house? With this level of evidence, we can argue for a disproportionate share. She used marital assets to conduct an affair. That matters to judges. How long will this take? Depends on if she contests it. If she's smart, she'll settle. If she fights, it could take months. Years even, but with this evidence, I'm betting she'll agree to settle. Nobody wants this aired out in open court." I left his office with a folder full of paperwork and a court date 3 weeks out. The divorce petition would be served to Jessica at her job the next day. Professional, clean, no drama. Exactly how it had to be. That night I went back to the house. Jessica was in the kitchen cooking dinner for 2. The smell of grilled chicken and rice filled the house. A familiar, homey smell. The smell of lies. She looked up when I walked in, hope in her eyes. "I made your favorite," she said, trying to smile. "Lemon herb chicken, just the way you like it. I filed for divorce today." The wooden spoon she was holding clattered to the floor. "Michael, please, can't we talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about. The baby isn't mine. We'll have a DNA test to confirm it, but we both know the truth." She turned off the stove and faced me. "What do you want?" "You want me to beg?" "Fine, I'll beg. I made a mistake. I was lonely and scared, and Kevin was here, and I made a terrible mistake. 7 months isn't a mistake. 7 months is a choice. A choice you made every single day, every time you picked up the phone and didn't tell me. Every time you wrote that you missed me while you were with him. I love you, she said, the words sounding hollow now. Whatever you think happened, I love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 7 months sleeping with our neighbor while I was being... I stopped. It wasn't worth it. She would never understand. I walked past her toward our bedroom. I'm getting a few more things. Where are you going? To stay somewhere else until this is settled. The papers will be served tomorrow. You'll want to hire your own lawyer. Michael, wait. I stopped at the door. She came closer, her hands outstretched like she was going to touch me, but she stopped when she saw my expression. What about us? What about our marriage? What about the 6 years we spent together? I looked at her. 6 years of marriage, 3 years thinking I knew who she was, 8 months serving my country while she destroyed our family. There is no us, I said, each word heavy as stone. There hasn't been a new us since you decided to sleep with Kevin Johnson. Since you decided to lie to me. Since you decided our marriage meant less than your loneliness. I left her there in the kitchen, with dinner getting cold on the stove. Outside, Kevin was in his driveway again, working on that motorcycle. He looked up when he heard my truck start. Our eyes met for a second through the windshield. He looked away first. Coward. A coward of a man who sleeps with a soldier's wife while he's serving his country. The courtroom was small, sterile. Judge Stevens presiding, a woman in her late 50s with sharp eyes that had seen it all. Jessica sat across the aisle with her lawyer, a young guy in an expensive suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Scott Miller had done his homework. The evidence was organized, documented, undeniable. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts, credit card statements with romantic dinners and hotels, receipts for gifts bought with our joint money. The ultrasound report showing a timeline that made paternity impossible. The DNA test results had come in the week before. 0 probability that I was the father. 0, not 1%. Not a chance. Your Honor, Scott said, his voice echoing in the quiet room, the evidence clearly shows that the respondent conducted an extramarital affair for the entirety of the petitioner's military deployment, used marital assets to support this affair, and attempted to deceive the petitioner into believing he was the father of another man's child. Jessica's lawyer tried to argue that the affair was irrelevant to the division of property. But Judge Stevens had been doing this for 20 years. She'd seen it all. She'd seen all the lies, all the excuses, all the human misery that passed through that courtroom. The court finds that the respondent's actions constitute a significant breach of the marital relationship and a misuse of community property, she said, her voice firm and clear. The petitioner will be awarded 65% of all marital assets, including the family residence. The respondent is ordered to reimburse the petitioner for all marital funds used to further the extramarital relationship. Jessica stared at the table in front of her. No tears this time, just defeat. Just the weight of reality crashing down on her. Furthermore, the judge continued, the court orders that the respondent will be solely responsible for all costs related to the pregnancy and birth, as the child is not the biological issue of the petitioner. The gavel came down, final. The sound echoed in the room like a gunshot. It was all over in one crack of wood against wood. Outside the courthouse, Jessica caught up to me. Michael, wait. I stopped walking but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she said, her voice small behind me. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I looked at her. She was visibly pregnant now, her stomach round under a loose navy blue maternity dress. In 2 months, she'd have a baby with no husband and no father willing to take responsibility. Sorry doesn't bring back 8 months, I said. It doesn't bring back the trust. It doesn't bring back the man I was before I found out. She nodded, tears finally falling. I know I messed everything up. I know I destroyed our family. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I turned to leave, then stopped. One last thing. Jessica looked at me, hopeful. Is it a boy or a girl? The baby, she swallowed hard. A boy. I hope he has a good father, I said. It just won't be me. And then I left, leaving her in the courthouse parking lot carrying the weight of her choices. 3 months later, I signed the final papers in Scott's office. The house was mine. The bank accounts were divided as ordered. Jessica had moved out of state, back home with her parents in Oregon. Kevin Johnson had lost his job when word got around the construction community. Sleeping with a deployed Marine's wife doesn't make you popular in Texas's defense-heavy economy. His ex-wife also learned of the affair during the divorce proceedings, which cost him additional money in their settlement modification. I heard through neighbors he'd moved to the countryside trying to start over. Good. Let him suffer somewhere else. I kept the house for 6 months, then sold it. Too many memories, too much history in those rooms. Every corner held a memory that was now poisoned. The living room where we watched movies. The kitchen where we made breakfast together. The bedroom where... no, not worth thinking about. I bought a smaller place near the base. Clean lines, no history. 2 bedrooms, a garage, a small backyard. I had my truck, my savings, and a lesson learned about trusting people completely. The deployment to Haiti had taught me about survival in a hostile environment. Coming home taught me about survival in a different kind of hostile environment. Some nights, I'd sit on my back porch and think about the alternate timeline, the one where I had believed the lie, raised another man's son, never found out the truth. That version of Michael would be living a completely different life, one built on deception. He wouldn't know he was raising Kevin's son. He wouldn't know that all the sacrifices, the time away, the danger, the loneliness were spent while she was in another man's arms. I prefer the truth, even when it's ugly. The truth can cut you like a knife, it can burn like fire, but at least it's real. At least you know where you stand. The military taught me that clear intelligence leads to better decisions, in war and in life. Jessica's deception failed because she underestimated the power of simple math and a Marine's commitment to facts over fiction. Sometimes the strongest response to betrayal is to simply refuse to participate in someone else's lies. It's to walk away from the story they built and to live in the truth no matter how painful it is. And in that painful truth I found something: my dignity, my self-respect, my ability to look in the mirror and know that I am not complicit in my own destruction. Life goes on. The sun comes up. The work needs to be done. And somewhere far away, there's a baby who will be born soon, a little boy I'll never know, the son of a lie I refuse to accept. I don't feel sorry for myself. I feel sorry for him, growing up with parents who chose betrayal over honesty. But that's not my story to carry. That burden belongs to them. I have my own story now. A story of a man who served his country, who came home to betrayal, and who chose the truth over the comfort of ignorance. It's not the story I wanted, but it's an honest one. And honesty, I've realized, is worth more than any comfortable lie ever could be.